Yeah, about drying times, and sometimes in New Zealand where it's raining and you're doing insides, we use heat lamps or fan heaters just to get some air flowing through there and dry things out quicker. But I have never had to do that as yet here in Australia, in Queensland particularly, but I would assume at some stage you may require to run some heat lamps out, even to get a bit of light on the inside in some instances, just to be able to cut in properly, because often it gets a bit dark in some of these old Queenslanders. Now, opposed to run your hand over walls, even if it looks good, before you put your coats on. You never know, and in this instance here I can feel it rough up here. Rough. I know they've gone and they must have sprayed this room, sprayed the ceilings, because this is all a hardy plank, and they've sprayed it and they haven't run a sander over this top edge. All this top is rough, but it's like it's had sandpaper. You wouldn't know if you looked at it, but I can feel it. So you always, any surface you're doing, as I said, it's your canvas, so you need to make sure that there's no little holes or hard drippies from somebody's previous paint job, or it's not rough, so if your client runs their hand over it after you've gone and put 2 or 3 coats on and it still feels rough, it's not, you don't look good, and it's not your fault, it's the person before you, but it is your fault because you haven't checked before you've done the job. And that's anything, woodwork, doors the same. A lot of doors look nice and shiny, and you're going to put some paint on, you run your hand over it and it's rough as, you know, especially around the edges on some of them. I noticed in this case here the skirting has got rough on the top, and they haven't put a sandpaper over it, and it's just the original wood is still unsanded. So there you go. Yeah, you can get hand sanders, you put your sandpaper on, you can get pole sanders, which I generally use if I'm spraying. But in this instance I've just got a little bit of sandpaper and I'm just running it over the wall. Okay, that ceiling's ready to recoat. It's dry, it's coming up good. The flat ceiling paint hides a lot of infirmities up there. That crack has disappeared, that was in the middle. So now I'm going to put the final coat on, and I'll cut the walls in and do the wall roll. So we're cutting the wall in. Now what I'll do is get up on the step ladder and do that next, but right at the moment I'm just going to do the bottom bit just to give the top edge a chance to dry. So you've got to run around all the frames, all these corners, leave about 50mm on each edge so you can roll into. Be careful you don't get any paint on your ceiling. And we're going to do skirts as well. Run around the edge of the skirts. Now I've taped up around those on the carpet down the skirts so I don't get paint on the carpet. $50mm up from the skirts. Be careful when you're doing the skirts, you don't want to get paint between the tape and the skirts, because that'll get on the carpet. Some people do enamel. The kitchens and that, lounges on the skirts.